All right, let's get right into it. Something huge is happening, kind of behind the scenes with the internet. And it touches pretty much everything you do online. You know, what you buy, what you stream, what you subscribe to. It's this massive global tax reshuffle. And that's what we're going to unpack in this explainer. What is going on, and more importantly, why you should care.
So to kick things off, let me ask you a question. And it might sound a little weird. Is your Netflix subscription a physical good? Like, can you actually hold it in your hand? I know, it sounds ridiculous, right? But believe it or not, the way governments are starting to answer that question is flipping the entire digital economy on its head.
We'll get this. In Colorado, the answer is yes. A court there actually said that for tax purposes, Netflix is tangible property. I mean, wow. It's a perfect example of how these ancient tax laws are being twisted and stretched to cover a digital world they were never, ever built for. And this isn't just some one-off thing in Colorado. No, this is happening all over the globe.
Okay, so to really get what's going on, you just have to know about the two main ways things get taxed. First, you've got value-added tax, or VAT. That's big in Europe and lots of other places. Think of it like a little bit of tax being added at every single step of making and selling something. Then there's sales tax, which is what we're used to in the US. That's way simpler. It's just a one-time tax when you, the customer, buy the final product. And for the longest time, the internet just kind of floated above all of this. And that's what led to what I like to call the internet's big tax-free party. I mean, for years and years, the whole digital world was operating in this weird tax gray zone. It was great for them, but it was creating a monster of a problem for governments.
So the problem was really two-sided. On one hand, you have the digital economy just exploding, and governments are watching this huge tax gap get wider and wider. We're talking billions in revenue they just couldn't touch. But maybe even more importantly, it created this totally unfair playing field, right? Think about it. Some huge online company from another country could sell stuff to you without charging any local tax, while the little shop on your main street had to. It just wasn't sustainable. The party, well, it had to stop.
And once governments realized that, it kicked off this mad dash, a global tax scramble. All of a sudden, countries everywhere were racing to cook up their own rules for taxing the internet. And what we got was this incredibly complex, honestly chaotic mess of new laws. So let's just look at a few. You've got Brazil, which comes up with this brand new dual VAT system. It's specifically aimed at hitting platforms that aren't even based in Brazil.
Then you have Indonesia, taking a totally different route. They're making the big e-commerce platforms, the marketplaces themselves, actually withhold the income tax. They're shifting the job to the big guys.
Saudi Arabia is doing something similar, rolling out new marketplace rules for VAT. Again, they're making it super clear. The platforms and the sellers are now responsible for getting the tax right.
And this one really shows you how up to the minute this all is. It's not just about buying stuff anymore. Check out Kazakhstan. They're now slapping a 12% VAT on digital subscriptions for things like ChatGPT. Yeah, even AI is getting taxed now. So if you're looking for the common thread here, the big aha moment, it's this. The responsibility is shifting. Governments figured out it's way, way easier to make a handful of giant platforms, your Amazons, your Ubers, your Googles, collect the tax, instead of trying to chase down millions of individual sellers all over the world. So the big takeaway? The marketplace has become the new tax collector, period.
Okay, so in the middle of this global free-for-all, you've got the European Union stepping in and saying, whoa, let's try to bring some sanity to this. They're trying to build a single, unified blueprint to get everyone on the same page.
And the EU's whole game plan is built around one word: simplification. They've got these new initiatives. One is called ViDA, which stands for VAT in the digital age. The goal is pretty simple. Let a business register for VAT just once for the entire EU. And they've also created something called the One-Stop Shop Portal, or OSS. It means a business can go to one website and pay all the VAT it owes across all EU countries. It's a game changer, really, because if you make it easy, people will actually do it.
So the big question is, did it work? Is this new EU system actually doing anything? Well, the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. And in this case, it comes down to one absolutely massive number: 33 billion euros. Yeah,
$33 billion. That's how much VAT revenue the EU pulled in 2024 just from these new e-commerce systems. It's an incredible amount of money, and it's stone-cold proof that their model, clear rules, simple process, it actually works. But here's the thing. Making the rules simpler is only one part of the puzzle. The other really clever part? It's about using technology to solve a problem that, let's face it, technology created in the first place. And this has created a whole new toolkit for tax authorities around the world. We're talking about things like mandatory e-invoicing, so data is exchanged in real time, or real-time reporting, where businesses have to report sales to the government almost the second they happen, and standardized digital files for audits, so tax authorities can see everything instantly. This isn't some what-if scenario for the future. This is happening right now. It's a new era of total tax transparency. All right, so we've covered the problem, the wild west of internet taxes, and we've seen the solutions countries are putting in place. So let's bring it all home. What are the new rules of the game for e-commerce? And what does all this really mean for businesses and for us as shoppers? Okay, there's one key word you absolutely have to understand here, and that word is nexus. It sounds complicated, but it's not. All it means is having enough of a connection or a footprint in a place that you have to start collecting and paying taxes there. And for like 100 years, that meant a physical connection, a shop, a warehouse, an office. Well, not anymore. And this is where things get really interesting. The whole idea of nexus is being blown wide open. Take a real-world case from Washington State. A company had 0 offices there, 0 property. But a court ruled they had nexus and had to pay taxes just because they hired a few local contractors to work from home. Just an economic connection was enough. If you run a remote business or work for one, that should get your attention. It's a total game changer.
So what's the bottom line for any business that operates online? You can't just sit back and wait anymore. You have to get ahead of this. You need to register for taxes before they come knocking. You have to truly understand your nexus footprint everywhere you operate. You've got to keep up with these rules because they're changing constantly. You need to embrace the new tech, like e-invoicing. And honestly, you probably need to get some expert advice because trying to figure all this out on your own, it's a recipe for some very expensive mistakes.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. For so long, how we thought about business, about buying and selling, it was all tied to physical stuff. Things you could touch, places you could go. Now that the tax man has finally caught up to the digital age, it's forcing all of us to rethink what it even means to own something. What does it mean to sell or to buy something that you can't actually hold in your hand?